YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. A month away till the NFL season starts. 1 month away till Texas Chiefs. I'm getting excited. And we got a bunch of rankings and predictions to finish up. We got to finish up these unit rankings. So we got secondaries today. I'm ranking every NFL secondary from 32 down to 1. So combining the corners, the safeties of each team. We'll break it down in just a second. Full NFL coverage here at the Goat House. You're going to want to subscribe. We're getting ready for the NFL season. Full predictions every single week. Subscribe, turn notifications on, follow that Twitter for updates on the NFL and the channel, and then check out that podcast episode every week. Link in the description in the comments for anything that you may need there. But let's get on to the secondary rankings here for this year, predicting this season. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be at the bottom here, 32. Honestly, I think C.J. Henderson really could be their standout guy, and that's kind of a raw prospect. You know, he went a lot earlier than everyone expected, but that's because, his upside. Fantastic in man coverage, has the athleticism, pretty much just fits the profile, what teams are looking for. But he'll get beat here and there. He's just kind of a raw prospect with a ton of upside. DJ Hayden did play pretty solid last year. Safety position, Ronnie Harrison, Jared Wilson, they're not super weak at that position, but I don't know if there's enough there yet. They're definitely a team of the future. The Panthers will be next, and at 31, and yeah, definitely a younger group. Lost James Bradbury, Dante Jackson. Would like to see him step up a bit. It's going to be it's interesting to see how they use Jeremy Chin for sure. Trey Boston stepped up last year, but there really isn't. Yeah, these teams at the bottom. If there's not enough to put them towards the top. The Jets definitely get a little worse losing Jamal Adams there for sure. They were looking very strong at the safety position. And that's still their stronger part, of their team there, because they have Bradley McDougald, they have Marcus May, and they have Ashton Davis. So a pretty good trio. It's not like they opened up a giant need after losing Jamal Adams, but they find themselves at the bottom there because there's no really standout there at the safety position. The corner, they're definitely. They might be the worst in terms of the cornerback unit in football here. The Giants are coming in at number 29, and they just took a hit at the cornerback position as well. They did bring in James Bradbury, which still want to see more from him because always kind of known as average to below average, probably a little below average corner. Then last year, first half of the season, looked outstanding, but then almost kind of felt like he went back to normal after that. So let's see what James Bradbury we're going to get here. And they lose DeAndre Baker off the field issues, and they're going to lose Sam Beal due to opting out there. So pretty thin at corner. Julian Love does have outside corner experience, even though he played some free safety and some slot corner last year for the Giants, so he may have to step up outside here. So I mean they do have a few guys that can step up, and at the safety position, it feels like, well, I guess Love could play free safety, but to me it feels like they're about to start two strong safeties. To me, Jabril Peppers and Xavier McKinney are strong safeties. Best part of their game is coming up and hitting almost in the box. So I think they can surrender, some yards downfield here, the Giants. So some tough blows at corner. The Colts, another team I don't really know what to expect, mainly because Malik Hooker is a pretty good playmaker in the back end. Yeah, he could work on tackling, but he's a solid free safety when he's back there. But that's kind of the question. When he's back there, he does have some minor injuries here and there that keep him off the field. It almost feels like they're getting ready to replace him after this year, perhaps. But it feels like he kind of carries the load for the safety group. And then you got the corner group. Kenny Moore, pretty solid. He was hurt last year. They drafted Rock Ya-Sin. Still definitely needs to develop. We need to see more from him. And they pick up Xavier Rhodes, which I don't know what to expect from Rhodes because about 3 years ago he was probably the best cornerback in football, and then last year was a disaster. So maybe he's out to prove something. So maybe he can play at a higher level. It's just one of those teams we got to wait and see. If I can trust the health and if I can trust Rhodes to play better, this can shoot up from 28. But it's a lot of mystery here. Eagles at 27. They did add Darius Slay, but they're still pretty much lacking everywhere else, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing here. But I do think they get better. They're probably towards the very – they're close to the bottom here, but they're probably towards the very bottom there. I mean, Jalen Mills can play corner or safety, so that's good for them. Avonte Maddox has looked pretty solid. Had higher hopes for Sidney Jones. Maybe he can start to step up. They add Will Parks, but nothing much here. They also had Roby Cohen for the slot. He was playing pretty well in the slot a couple years ago. Last year, not so much. So it just feels like Slay kind of has to carry this group a little bit. They have depth and rotation. They had another one they add that I like a lot is Kayvon Wallace from Clemson. That was one of my sleepers, one of the steals of the draft. But he almost plays. He's almost a linebacker, outside linebacker. He can cover in the slot quite a bit. Curious to see how they use him, and they can use him right away. I think they'll benefit from using him right away. So. They got a lot of players that can play. They have the depth there and they have options. It's just in terms of, to put them up higher than 27, it just seems like one guy's kind of carrying the group in terms of predictions here for the season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Falcons at 26. This kind of rides on some health mainly. Keanu Neal, of course. The cornerback, pretty young. Could be solid, probably in the near future, though, not quite yet, with Isaiah Oliver and A.J. Terrell, who they just drafted there. And, of course, they have Kendall Sheffield, who can step up, and they add Darqueze Dennard in the slot. So another team pretty balanced, no giant hole there. Will they stay healthy at the safety position there with Keanu Neal? There could be some adjustment periods, some struggle early for a guy like A.J. Terrell, but a very promising corner for the future. The Texans are at 25. Another team that has kind of a long list of guys, similar to the Eagles. There, it's pretty balanced. I think it's more balanced than the Eagles. But I would compare them. They don't have Darius Slay, but they got a number of guys. I think a guy like Lonnie Johnson Jr. can step up this year. I think he'll play pretty well. Bradley Roby, another year in here, can play pretty solid. Justin Reed's a solid safety. So, no standout really, but pretty balanced. They have depth, especially they want to run a lot of nickel, so they made sure they went out and got guys that can play the nickel position as well as the outside corner. So I like that. That's definitely a good thing. But they definitely need some guys to step up to be that standout guy there, perhaps. Next group of teams, Washington football team here at number 24. This team, on paper, the secondary really isn't that great, but I think the front seven's going to help it play much better, which is great. Landon Collins they do have, which, he's a strong safety, but he's another one that feels almost like a linebacker. His best ball is in the box. It's not really as a traditional safety. Interesting to see what they do at free safety. I'm thinking Kendall Fuller could possibly play free safety. We've seen him get some reps even in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs at free safety, and that actually he could play in the slot, could play outside, but I actually like him a little better at free. But they could go Sean Davis there. Corners, Fabian Moreau could step up. They have Darby, but you worry about the injury concern there. So another team that has guys, Jimmy Moreland, Aaron Colvin, Greg Stroman, they have a long list of guys that can play. So that's great. If somebody goes down, they're looking okay. But even though that's not really okay, but maybe no standout guys besides Landon Collins when he's playing up in the box. The Cowboys at 23. Another team that's kind of missing the standout guys, but I think they're pretty balanced. I like Trevon Diggs a lot. That was a fantastic pick. Maybe not a crazy amount of expectations early, but he's a playmaker back there. He'll make some plays. Awuzie, pretty solid option there. Looks like it's going to be Woods and Clinton Dix at safety. They have Darian Thompson as well. So another team that has options, just do they have enough playmaking ability back there? The Raiders at 22. Jonathan Abrams back. That's fantastic. Another team with a long list of corners. They're going to run a lot of nickel packages, so they made sure they went out and got guys that can play outside, but mainly in the slot in terms of the corner. Hopefully a guy like Trayvon Mullen can step up. Damon Arnett, their draft pick. That's the interesting part, though. Because, Damon Arnett's more built like a slot, but I like him a lot more outside. I don't see him playing in the slot, for the Raiders. So it'll be interesting to see who they put in there. But they do have guys that I believe. I think Trayvon Mullen, if asked to do so, I think he can do it. Nevin Lawson definitely has the ability to do it. So, and they have some safeties that can go up and play in there as well. LaMarcus Joyner's, and of course, he's going to play up in the slot quite a bit. And it's probably going to be Abram Randall there in the back end. So, and Eric Harris is pretty good depth. So, another one of those teams. We've seen a lot of these teams. Well, they're in a pretty good situation. They don't have their secondary's not really going to take over, but they got some depth. They had Mukamara to the outside. A little bit of an off year last year, but they got a rotation. They got a rotation there. So, the Chiefs at 21. The safety group really holds this up. You look at the safety group first, and you're thinking the Chiefs are going to be ranked much better than this. Corner group does weigh it down a little bit, but Not as much as you may think, because I think the Chiefs' corners got a pretty tough task. Nobody runs man coverage, man press more than the Chiefs. And you think about what's the hardest position to play in football, I'd say probably quarterback, but I'd say probably corner next. But if you think about what's the hardest specific role to play, probably press man corner. It's so hard to play, and these guys, they may get beat here and there, but there's more opportunities to get beat compared to some other guys. So Bashaud Breeland and Ward back there, and they even have Fenton step up. Last year, these guys got a tough task. They're not the best corners, but got a tough task. Browns are a tough team to rank, because on paper it's looking pretty good. They got some playmakers back there. The corner duo of Ward and Greedy Williams should be a good one for the future. They add Grant Delpit, who's going to play at the strong safety position. They got options. They got Carl Joseph, Andrew Sendejo, and they add MJ Stewart for the slot, of course. So it looks pretty good on paper, I suppose. They got some playmakers, mainly Grant Delpit in the back end is going to get his hands on the ball. Problem here is what the problem was kind of last year, was tackling. Once the ball got to that next level of the field, the tackling was just brutal in the secondary. And they add Grant Delpit, which they needed a playmaker back there, so I like the pick. But his concern was kind of tackling in the back end there as well. So, I think the more important is sticking to your guy, staying true in coverage and making plays to change the game, be a game changer. That's most important, but tackling does, count. It definitely does count. So Browns at 20, a tough team to rank. Buccaneers at 19, a much improved secondary, will continue to climb because it's very young. Safety was kind of the concern. They add Antoine Winfield. They really could get better at the other spot too, which could be wide open for a camp battle. But Winfield's a playmaker back there. He's my best safety in the class, not afraid to come up and hit. He can play free, he can play strong, he can play in the slot. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they want to play him more at free? When he's at free, we're going to see Mike Edwards in there kind of playing the strong spot, another guy that can play in the box as well. But guys like Justin Evans and Jordan Whitehead could also play. So that's going to be interesting to see, what they actually do there. The corner position, young athletic for sure. I think Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, the Auburn boys back there at the outside corner. I love Sean Murphy Bunting to play outside or in the slot. I think he'll kind of start in the slot. These are good playmakers. Buccaneers are going to continue to climb. In a couple of years, they could be at the top tier of the NFL because they built this thing right, in my opinion. So in the top 20 for now. The Lions at 18. The Lions secondary got chewed alive last year, so you may be surprised, even though they started the year off very strong, but you may be surprised that they'll be this high. But I'm starting to believe in it a little bit. Last year it's pretty much Darius Slay out there kind of carrying the corner group. But now you got kind of two out there on the outside instead of one. You got Jeff Okudah, you got Desmond Trufant. You can't expect Okudah, even though that is a crazy good prospect. You can't really expect him to be lights out right away, but I do expect some good play. So more balance at the corner position. Justin Coleman in the slot, obviously. This safety group's pretty interesting. They got a list of guys that could play here. Tracy Walker I like a lot. That could be your playmaker in the back end. Juwan Harmon's kind of the experienced guy. They brought in Will Harris last year. They got him on the field quite a bit. He looked pretty solid, the young Boston College product there. But they add Jaron Kearse, who's actually suspended for a little bit. But Kearse intrigues me because if you watch the Vikings last year, he didn't start, but he filled in at corner, at slot corner, and at strong safety. And when he got the chance, he played very well, I thought. When they were short on corners, he had to go play outside corner against the Broncos last year. He locked it down, and this guy, you put him anywhere. So they're pretty unique here in the back, and I think major upgrade from last year. The Bengals, I think a pretty balanced group here at number 17. You add Trey Waynes, you have William Jackson, you put Mackenzie Alexander in the slot, you got Jesse Bates and Von Bell. This is a balanced group. I know Jesse Bates could be a standout guy. Those corners, you get better with Trey Waynes, but they could get beat downfield a little bit. They upgrade the tackling with Trey Waynes mainly, which was, the Bengals were right down there at the Browns with terrible tackling in the secondary. But balanced group across the board. I'm hoping Jesse Bates steps up this year. That was a kind of a guy I was really high on in the draft a couple years ago. A guy could be a true playmaker there in the back end. Then we're moving on to the top 16 here. Number 16 is the Bears. For the Bears, it's one really strong safety and one pretty strong corner. They add Jalen Johnson. I love that draft pick. There was some little bit of an injury concern, so he dropped a little bit, but I'm not too worried. That could be a pretty good pairing in the future with Fuller. We'll see how he adjusts right away. Eddie Jackson, they add Deshaun Gibson. Eddie Jackson's, I think carrying that group. He's got too much responsibility there since Amos Law was left, I should say, to Green Bay. So I think it's kind of Jackson carrying this group. Fuller helps along with that as well. But they come in at number 16 still because there'll be playmakers back there. They have that front seven to kind of create that. Dolphins at 15. The corner group, very, very strong. You're looking at the corner group alone with Byron Jones, Xavier Howard. They're towards the top of the NFL. So you look at that, and then you see 15. You might think, wow, the corners feel like much better than 15, but the safety group is definitely what's weighing them down. Projected to be, both these guys do have experience at corner as well. Projecting McCain and Eric Rowe there in the back end. Obviously Rowe familiar with Brian Flores. They used him a bit at corner last year as well. So the safety group really weighs them down, but that corner group is a lockdown corner group, so that's going to help them win some ball games perhaps. Cardinals at 14, and really Isaiah Simmons could be thrown in the mix here. They'll use him everywhere, obviously. Use him at a little bit of a safety position too, perhaps. Patrick Peterson, I don't think he's quite the same as he was, when he was in his prime top of the league, but still very good. Byron Murphy there needs to step up a bit, but promising young prospects here. Budda Baker's really improved, and then you have Thompson there, supplement draft pick a couple years ago. So it's Peterson and Budda Baker kind of carrying this group a bit here. But some young guys that could definitely step up for the Cardinals. The Saints at 13. It's a balanced group here. There's no giant weak spot. I definitely want Marshawn Lattimore to play a lot better. I talk about it all the time. The first 6 weeks or so, this guy looks like an elite cornerback. Then something happens. I feel like it's deja vu every year for me. But still, got to believe in the guy. Janoris Jenkins actually played pretty solid at the end of last year. I think I know Lattimore was covering the number ones, but Janoris Jenkins started to get better as he joined the Saints. Marcus Williams had a standout year, promising guy there for free safety. They get Malcolm Jenkins back, which is still a strong safety, but and a strong leader as well. So I think a pretty balanced group. There's nothing that stands out big time. I do like the potential of Marcus Williams here. I mean, he's definitely a solid player already. It's just mainly a balanced group here across the board. And then they could have a couple slot options. I think Gardner Johnson could step up in that position. We move on. Number 12, the Denver Broncos. The safety group, very strong. Justin Simmons, one of the better free safeties in all of football. The corner group, I like A.J. Bouye to step up this year, play much better with this group, with that front seven, with that safety group, with Vic Fangio. So I think a pretty big year from Bouye. Wyatt couple years ago at Boston College, has his flashes, but they definitely could get better at that spot. I still kind of believe in the guy. I think he has some potential. And they draft Ojemudia from Iowa. He could actually step up as well. So I think one corner spot kind of keeps them from being in the top 10. The Vikings, they got the best safety duo in football. You look at that safety group, you're thinking top tier of this list. The cornerbacks are going to weigh them down a little bit, but these safeties will make the corners play better with Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris. But Mike Hughes, who was a top prospect and looking very solid a few years ago, then got hurt. He's still kind of easing his way back in there, so I think a step up this year. And the first-round player, Jeff Gladney from TCU, I think everybody talked about it all offseason. He fits Mike Zimmer, so much. He fits the Vikings cornerback group so much. So what they're looking for. So. I think he'll fit right in. They have Cameron Dantzler as well, so then they drafted quite a few more. So they have a long list of guys, just the cornerback group weighing them down. The Niners got some balance here. They got the standout corner Richard Sherman. Emmanuel Mosley, I thought, played pretty well when in. It felt like they started Witherspoon over him a bit too much, but Mosley ended up playing a lot more. And then Jimmy Ward stepped up, and Jaquiski Tartt was a playmaker when they needed him back there, and he's also their buzz safety, so he'll kind of come up and control the middle of the field as well. The front seven, I think both number 9 and number 10. The front seven probably makes these guys look a little better than they are, but they went out and balled last year, so the Steelers are at number 9. Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson was quite impressive last year, step up above where everyone thought he would play. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick was lights out when they traded from a playmaker back there. And Terrell Edmonds, we could, their strong safety, we could expect to potentially take that next step this year. So I think another pretty balanced group there, and they pair well with their front seven, their pass rush there. Moving on, 8-5, Seattle Seahawks boost their secondary ranking adding Jamal Adams there, one of the best safeties in football, that'll be involved around the line of scrimmage in the box as well. Shaq Griffin and Quentin Dunbar at the corner position. Yeah, nothing really stands out big time, but some very solid corners. They have Quandre Diggs there. So, yeah, Adams, I don't want to say carries because they got some solid guys here, but definitely boosts them up a bit. So they make themselves into the top 10 at number 8 here. Number 7, Tennessee Titans, I think a very balanced group as well. Adoree Jackson, Malcolm Butler, I think pretty even for them. Adoree Jackson could continue to improve. 2 solid corners there. Kevin Byard, one of the better, maybe the best free safety in football. I think Kenny Vaccaro has actually been better than expected here with the Titans at the strong safety position since he's joined. I think there's no weaknesses, a very balanced group, and they have a standout guy there in Byard. Green Bay Packers at number 6, Jaire Alexander making his way up into the top tier corners in the NFL, a playmaker, but at the same time, you could look like a lockdown corner at times and come up and hit you. Kevin King, I think, is a bit underrated. He's pretty solid last year. He got targeted quite a bit. And then they have there was a new safety duo from last year because they signed Adrian Amos from the Bears, and they draft Darnell Savage, the playmaker there from Maryland. Amos, we see how good he is, playing strong, playing in the box. You see how much the Bears miss him. And then Savage is going to continue to get better. There, he's going to be their playmaker in the back. So I think it's at the same time of having some standout guys in Alexander and Amos. I think there's no weak spot. It's a pretty balanced group as well. I like the Rams secondary a lot, especially for the future here. As long as they re-sign Jalen Ramsey, Ramsey at any time. I think the correct answer is saying up to this point, Gilmore is the best corner in football. But at any time, Ramsey can play, and especially on a contract year where he needs to prove that he's worth the top dollar, he can play like the best corner in football at any time. Troy Hill is very underrated. He's really improved. They moved on from Marcus Peters because they believe in Troy Hill very much. Then Taylor Rapp, who was my number 1 safety 2 years ago, can play free or strong. That's what I like about him. You can find him in the box. You can find him being a playmaker in the back end. He improved every step of the way last year. This kid's going to continue to get better. I like him a lot. And then John Johnson has been very solid for the Rams the last few years here. Had some injuries last year, but it's a very good group here, the Rams secondary. Might need to carry them along with Aaron Donald. Might need to carry the Rams defense here, but I like the secondary a lot. Top 4, I got the Bills at 4. Tre'Davious White and Josh Norman, and the safety duo is very strong. One of the best safety duos in football with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and Tre'Davious White being one of the better corners. So that's really all that was just said is why they're in the top 5. Norman could weigh them down a little bit, but he also can play better with this talent around him. So they find themselves at 4. New England Patriots got arguably the best cornerback in football, a top-tier defender in Stephon Gilmore. J.C. Jackson I like a lot. This was a steal for them, undrafted. I could not believe. I think I had a 3rd-round grade on this kid. But he's definitely one to watch out for. Definitely on the rise. Was impressive last year. Devin McCourty. They have Jason McCourty as well. No more Patrick Chung. Patrick Chung's been solid, but if you had to pick a weaker spot of the secondary, it was probably him, even though he's been very solid. But good thing they drafted Kyle Duggar, who actually could come up and play some linebacker. But I'm thinking, he could play safety for them, so that was a pretty good draft pick. It looks even better now. Some standout guys there and some guys that will continue to improve. I got the Chargers at 2. Very balanced group. Casey Hayward, and they had Chris Harris Jr., so 2 very strong corners on the outside. Derwin James arguably could be the best safety in football, a do-it-all safety. Then Desmond King can play the free safety position, or he can play the slot corner. They have some options there, so a very strong starting group, but a very deep group as well, and that's why they are number 2 for me. And number 1 is going to be the Baltimore Ravens, the best cornerback duo in football with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. You can debate at any time one is better than the other. They're that good. And I think they both can cover number 1s. Humphrey can be more of a lockdown guy. Marcus Peters more of the playmaking guy. Earl Thomas and Chuck Clark. Chuck Clark has definitely improved. I think he's a good fit to Don Martindale's scheme. You'll catch him up in the box quite a bit. Earl Thomas, they'll bring up both safeties sometimes, but Earl Thomas can also play in the back end there. So it's a very strong group, obviously. Having the best corner duo in football definitely helps, and having some solid safeties go along with that definitely helps as well. So, that is my secondary rankings. We got some other units to finish up. We're going to do linebackers, D-line. Going to have to split up different schemes for those videos. because you can't really compare a 3-4 and a 4-3 in that sense. So a lot more unit rankings to get through. Then we're going to rank all 32 offenses, all 32 defenses, final predictions, bold predictions, all kinds of videos still on the way. Very excited for the season to start. We'll have full coverage in season, so you're going to want to subscribe, smash that like button, turn notifications on so you don't miss a dang thing. We got you covered. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.